David. David, yeah?
How are you?
Nice to meet you, sir.
Sorry, I was just grabbing some
No, this is great. Where
have you parked your bike?
Just around the corner.
All right.
That's okay.
Shooting it raw?
Yes. Shooting it raw. Okay, so in the photo of your images are these on an easel or are these okay?
So this is a photo of an easel in my house.
Okay.
And there's 4 pictures on it actually.
Mm-hmm.
This one is a little one of the leaves on the ground painted entirely with soil paint in the garden.
Yeah.
So you can see the lovely sort of natural colours that I got.
Sure.
And then I'm also a very keen gardener. So this is garlics. This is a little picture of garlics on a sort of basket. And then this is a flower which was growing in my garden. It was a little flower which I did with charcoal, with a sort of chalk crayon.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then hiding them behind is a picture of a sort of a face peering through some roots and stuff like that.
Right. So so the photo, okay, it's a photo of your artwork on an easel, kind of not really stacked, but just presented. The flat fields against each other.
Yeah.
The image is dominated by this face looking through roots.
So
for the face, did you use a model, or is this?
No, among other things, I've been working with 4 or 5 other artists from around the world.
Okay.
Who I met through the social media clubhouse.
Okay.
And we were meeting almost every day for nearly 2 months.
Wow.
And just going through the process of drawing portraits together. So we started off drawing portraits with pencil, and then we moved on to charcoal. To sort of really work on the darks and tones and light and everything. And then we started to introduce some colour, some crayon, some Conte crayon, and then eventually moved on to acrylic paint.
Okay.
Right. So, and all the way through we critiqued each other's work.
Sure.
Right. And I think over the last 3 months I've counted that I did more than like 90 portraits.
Oh, wow.
Most of them are just quick scribbles, focus on particular things, eyes, nose, whatever.
Sure.
Some of them have portraits that took much more time. And then towards the end of this process, I did a series of drawings where I integrated faces into the natural sort of drawings that I've been doing of nature.
Okay.
So this is one of these where I drew faces out of my imagination, but I worked them into the landscapes.
Right.
Into, in this case, the sort of type of roots of a tree that I might be drawing. In another one, I did faces that were like boulders in a stream with the water sort of running over them.
Right.
And another one where faces like inside a flower, for instance. And I think I was just sort of, in a way, it was just using my imagination to integrate together some of these strands that I've been working on the last few months. So I've primarily been focused on sort of capturing aspects of the natural environment, or even working with the natural environment in terms of the soil, because if you have a painting that is created from the soil, you actually have a piece of Hong Kong there.
Yeah, absolutely.
Way, right? And, thinking about all the implications of that, but also all the drawings that I do of the natural environment. And yet, I as a person, humans are also part of the natural environment, and we engage with it, and the natural, what we might think is just sort of wild nature is actually very influenced by humans.
Absolutely,
The woodlands around here are mainly feng shui woodlands, which villagers have planted behind their villages in the past. So I just wanted to sort of bring that together in a way, integrating sort of just pictures that show the interconnections between us and nature.
Okay.
But in a purely imaginative sort of way.
Right. Okay. So I have approximately 8,061 questions. I'll just limit them. How did you start? So when you were 5 years old, where were you? What were you like? And then when you were 10, like, where does this come from? Because I feel like there's a massive career in between now and your youth that shaped you in a way that led to this. So what's that?
Thank you. Well, when I was 5, I was actually living in Sha Tin.
What?
Before Sha Tin, was built into a city.
Sha Tin, Hong Kong.
My parents lived here for a couple of years when I was sort of the ages of 4 to 6, I guess.
Wow. Okay.
And I went to my first primary school here. And my parents, were travelled around, and in between we lived for many years in UK. We lived in Northern Ireland, Gibraltar, and various places.
Okay.
And then around the 1979, they moved back to Hong Kong, and then Hong Kong was my home on and off since then.
Okay.
Right? But in terms of what formed me, I'm told that when I was 4 or 5 years old, I was very, very naughty, and my dad was quite a sort of strong disciplinarian, gave me a pretty hard time. And then I was bundled off to boarding school.
Oh, okay.
And I went to some pretty fierce boarding schools where they had very strict discipline and everything like that.
Oh, wow.
So I think when I came out of school, I didn't want to look back, and I wanted to have a lot of experience in my life. But I also had to sort of work through some of the issues that came,
Sure.
From not sort of growing up in one particular village, having one particular sort of home, being sent to boarding school and all this sort of thing.
Right.
And so I made some brief attempts to lead a normal career. I sort of worked for one of the banks here in Hong Kong for about 3 years.
Okay.
But I became very passionate about the environment. So I left the bank and decided to devote myself to ethical investment, what one could sort of call ethical investment in those days. And this is back in sort of 1988 or something.
Oh, wow.
I went round various fund houses in Hong Kong, tried to persuade them to set up green funds, and of course totally failed.
Sure.
At that time. And then I worked, for many years I worked with on various sort of projects on sort of sustainability oriented and green projects, and I worked with companies on their environment programs and all this sort of thing.
Okay, cool.
And then eventually my wife and I wanted to live a sort of very green lifestyle, so we started a small organic farm, and we made a living for a few years through this organic farm, through something known as sort of community supported agriculture.
Yeah.
Where we had members who would take sort of weekly vegetables from us and
Sure.
this sort of thing.
Wow.
And then we set up a sort of green shop in the village just to sell sort of green health products and sort of organic food and everything, and also a vegetarian restaurant, sort of vegetarian bookshop type restaurant, and later on a small handicraft business where we tried to promote some sort of ideas of fair trading and so on. So just little businesses, but they were just sort of in line with the way we thought.
Sure.
And then simultaneous to that, I linked up with a lady who had been the president of the UK Social Investment Forum, and we decided to set up a similar forum here in Asia to promote sort of sustainability to the investment community.
Oh, wow.
And we ran that association for around 12 years, and I think we had conferences all over the Asian region, and we did workshops, and we just worked with a very wide range of investors and financial institutions and banks and government people and stock exchanges and so on.
Amazing.
To encourage them not to sort of become green investors as such, but to see how they could use their investment influence to orientate business or society or whatever,
Sure.
a bit more towards a sort of greener path.
Yeah.
Right? And that association was absorbed into the United Nations. It became the sort of Asian office of the United Nations Finance Initiative.
Amazing.
And at that point, I sort of felt I'd really done enough in that area. And so after trying out various other things, I worked for some very sort of green eco organisation in Australia, which was growing organic seedlings for farmers.
Okay.
I decided, well, my two main interests, what I love, is gardening or anything to do with the soil, right, which is a passion of mine, and art. And art I had really loved when I was at school, but like many of us, I'd sort of given up the thing I love to do all the other things.
Right.
And I thought, actually, I really just want to go back and be an artist again.
Sure.
And perhaps I can use art to talk about some of these issues I care about.
I love it.
Right. So I signed up to a sort of adult education course in Brighton. I was living near Brighton at the time. And I was associated with all these interesting young students and people, art students and so on.
Right. Brighton in Jamaica.
No, Brighton in England.
Oh, England. Right.
Yes.
Sorry.
But it's Brighton in England.
Assume I'm an idiot.
Yeah, it's all right. Brighton in England is a real centre of the arts.
Okay, got it.
There's Brighton School of Art and College of Art or something. So I did a couple of terms at this, and then of course COVID came along, and we were all sent home.
Oh wow!
We were stuck at home, and so I started to just sit in the garden to draw, and then I was drawing all the pot plants. I was drawing everything in my garden.
Right.
And then I started to think perhaps I can use some of the materials in my garden instead.
Sure,
and I started to think maybe I can use the soil in some way or something.
Okay.
And then that's sort of really what got me on the journey of thinking about actually using soil as a medium.
Amazing.
Right.
Amazing. I have a question.
Yeah.
Do you have insect repellent?
Yes.
Can I have some? Yeah, I feed them right away.
Yeah.
And I am delicious to the insects.
Yeah, this will get rid of them.
Wicked.
Yeah.
Just to note that he's lighting a joint. No. You said pot plants, so I was like, what? The pot plants?
No.
The potted plants, sorry. And it's not a joint, it's an insect coil.
Yeah, it's an insect coil, yeah.
Okay.
It'll save you from the mosquitoes.
Nice, thank you very much.
One of those very old-fashioned ones we used to have when we were young.
The carcinogenic ones, yes, I love those.
Yeah, they
it
are.
Smells so good.
Carcinogenic, I think.
And since we're inhaling some carcinogenic fumes, let's move on to the next photo. Is that okay?
Yeah.
Okay, great. So, is life really a gift? Really? Can you make every second count? That's the whole point of the podcast. So, if you like what you've seen and you're inspired, because that really is my mission, then please give it a like, subscribe, and share.
Shooting it raw?
Yes, shooting it raw.